Welcome to the fallout of the Dynasty era. Where the official press releases promised a new beginning, the drummer was a ghost in his own band, and the Catman finally ran out of lives. To understand why Peter Criss's departure wasn't just a breakup, but a psychological dismantling, we have to look past the makeup. The year is 1980. Kiss is not just a band. They are a walking, breathing corporation. And the man who gave them their groove, the man who sang their biggest hit, was being erased from the history books while he was still standing in the room. This is the real cost of walking away from the machine. The narrative we have been sold for decades is simple. Peter Criss left Kiss to pursue a solo career because he was unhappy with the hard rock direction. It is a clean corporate explanation. It is also a lie. By the end of 1979, financially, they are titans. They are coming off the massive marketing blitz of the solo albums and the Dynasty tour. But internally, they are rotting. The 4 solo albums were supposed to give the members breathing room to prevent a breakup. Instead, they just highlighted how far apart they had drifted. In this chapter, we are dissecting the final months of the original lineup. We are going to look at the physical trauma Peter was hiding following his 1978 car accident, the subjective but damning accounts of sabotage on stage during the 1979 tour, and the meeting that finally severed the limb. We need to understand that this wasn't just a drummer losing his gig. This was a man losing his identity. When you spend 6 years building a superhero persona that becomes more famous than your own face, what happens when the corporation keeps the mask and throws you out on the street? To understand the severity of this split, we have to go back to the inciting incident that the band desperately tried to keep out of the headlines. We have to go back to the crash involving a Porsche 928 in Marina del Rey. The official story of the Dynasty sessions is often reduced to Peter being out of control due to substance abuse. And while the substance issues were real, they were a symptom, not just a cause. The root of the physical decline traces back to late 1978. Peter Criss was involved in a high-speed crash in his Porsche in Marina del Rey, California. It wasn't a fender bender, it was catastrophic. According to Criss's own memoir, Makeup to Breakup, he suffered significant injuries, including a broken nose and, most critically for a drummer, severe damage to his hands. Think about the mechanics of drumming for a hard rock band. The vibration, the impact, the sheer physical torque required to drive a stadium show. Peter was trying to return to the studio with hands that were essentially compromised. The management and the band kept this largely under wraps. The Kiss machine could not show weakness. They were superheroes. Superheroes don't get taken out by car accidents. They are invincible. So the machine kept rolling, but the engine was broken. This leads us to the recording of Dynasty, released in May 1979. If you look at the liner notes today, Peter is credited, but the reality was a deception. With the exception of Dirty Livin', which Peter co-wrote and sang, the drums on the album were performed by Anton Fig. Peter Criss was effectively a hired actor in his own band. He appeared in the promotional photography. He sat for the interviews. He wore the Catman makeup for the cameras. But in the studio, the place where the art is supposed to happen, he was replaced. This created a feedback loop of resentment. He was sitting in the control room or at home, knowing a ghost was playing his parts. He wasn't just being replaced on vinyl, he was being erased from the creative process. The band was moving toward a polished, disco-inflected sound that Peter despised, yet he physically couldn't deliver the rock performance he wanted to give, even if they had let him. The 1979 tour was intended to be a victory lap for the Dynasty album. Instead, it became a death march. As the tour progressed, the resentment bubbled over from the dressing room onto the stage. We have to talk about the tempo. For a rock band, the drummer is the heartbeat. If the heart drags, the body collapses. Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley are perfectionists. They built KISS on military-grade precision. According to accounts in Paul Stanley's memoir, Face the Music, Peter began to weaponize that need for precision against them. The allegations are that he was intentionally slowing down tracks, messing up cues, and forcing the frontmen to constantly look back at the drum riser in panic. While these claims of deliberate sabotage are subjective and based on the perspectives of the other members, the tension is undeniable in the archival audio. There are nights where the energy is frantic, disjointed. It was a power play. It was the only lever of control Peter had left. He couldn't control the business. He couldn't control the songwriting, but he could control whether the show succeeded or failed in real time. The friction reached a boiling point in Shreveport, Louisiana, December 8, 1979. This is the crime scene of authenticity we alluded to earlier. During the show, the internal conflict became external. Peter allegedly stopped playing mid-song. He essentially went on strike in front of thousands of screaming fans. Imagine the tension on that stage. You are Gene Simmons, the demon, spitting blood and breathing fire, trying to maintain the illusion of gods walking the earth, and behind you, the Catman is simply stopping. After the show, the confrontation was nuclear. This wasn't a band argument, this was the termination of a partnership. Peter had violated the cardinal rule of KISS. The show must go on. By compromising the live performance, he had attacked the revenue stream. And in the world of KISS, that is the unforgivable sin. Following the tour, the band retreated to New York. The atmosphere was funereal. The decision had essentially been made, but the formalities had to be observed. There is a pervasive myth that Peter quit. He has said it himself in various interviews over the years, trying to reclaim some agency in the narrative. But if we look at the timeline and the official statements, the picture is clearer. This was a firing disguised as a departure. On May 18, 1980, the press release finally dropped. It announced that Peter Criss was no longer a member of the band. It was the formal end of the original quartet. But the machinery of KISS had one last humiliation in store. Before the announcement, they still had to market the next album, Unmasked. Once again, Anton Fig played the drums on the record. Peter didn't play a note. Yet, he is there on the cover in the comic strip panel saying, "I'm still thinking about it." The most poignant visual evidence of this transition is the music video for Shandy. Filmed just before his official exit, this was Peter Criss's final appearance with the band. He was there, but he wasn't there. He was a ghost, haunting his own replacement. There is a moment in the video and in the lore of the band where Peter is the last one to leave the dressing room. He packs his bag, looks around the empty room and walks out the door. It was staged for the video, but it became an accidental documentary of his life. He was the last one to realize the party was over. So, Peter walks away. He has his pride, he has his freedom. And in September 1980, he releases his first post-KISS solo album, Out of Control. This was supposed to be his vindication. This was supposed to be the moment he proved that he was the heart and soul of the band, the R&B influence, the gritty voice that gave them Beth and Black Diamond. But the silence was deafening. The album failed to crack the top 100 on the Billboard charts in the US. It didn't just underperform, it vanished. Why? First, the musical landscape had shifted tectonically. By late 1980, the bombastic 70s rock sound was dying. New wave was ascending. Peter's album was a collection of soft rock, ballads, and standard hard rock that felt dated the moment it hit the shelves. But the deeper reason for the failure was the loss of the machine. Peter Criss discovered a brutal truth that every member of KISS eventually learns. The logo is louder than the name. Without the massive marketing blitz of all-coin management, without the pyrotechnics, Without the makeup, Peter Criss was just a drummer with a scratchy voice releasing a record that didn't sound like Kiss. The fans who worshipped the Catman didn't necessarily worship Peter Criss the man, they worshipped the icon. This failure was a financial disaster for Peter. He had spent lavishly, assuming the Kiss money would flow forever. When the checks stopped coming and the solo tours couldn't book arenas, the reality set in. He had traded the security of the corporation for a freedom that nobody wanted to buy. The most painful part of this departure wasn't just the money. It was the identity theft. When Peter left, he assumed the Catman persona would retire with him. It was his face, his design. But the contract said otherwise. The makeup belonged to the brand. While the new drummer, Eric Carr, would eventually adopt the Fox persona, the spectre of the Catman remained the property of Gene and Paul. This is the psychological toll that is rarely discussed. It's the loss of self. For 6 years, Peter Criss was a god. He could point a drumstick at a crowd of 20,000 people, and they would scream. Now he was just a guy in a leather jacket dealing with broken hands, a broken bank account, and the gnawing realization that he might have made a mistake. The Catman ultimately stayed huge. The makeup is iconic. It is on t-shirts and coffins to this day. But Peter Criss, the human being, faded into the background, becoming a footnote in the machine he helped lubricate with his own blood and sweat. The departure of Peter Criss marks the true end of the 1970s for Kiss. It was the moment the magic was replaced entirely by the business. Peter's story is a tragedy of hubris and pain. He fought for respect. He fought for his musical voice. But he fought a war against a tank with a drumstick. He proved that while you can take the man out of the makeup doesn't need the man to survive. If you want to understand the next phase of this evolution and how the band scrambled to replace the irreplaceable, make sure you are subscribed. Next time, we enter the era of the Fox and the desperate struggle to stay relevant in the 1980s. I'll see you in the comments.